French President Macron has emerged as a champion in Europe for President Trump's efforts to reshape Ukraine war policy and European defense. He called for a European strategic wake-up call and has advocated for Europeans to take on a greater burden for their own defense. Mr. Macron has invited Mr. Trump to Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris in November and held talks with Mr. Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky. He believes Europe should not rely on America for its own defense, especially with the US expected to face off against China in the Western Pacific. Europe, NATO, and the European Union have a vested interest in an effective US challenge to China. President Macron is urging Europe to take responsibility for its own defense and not rely solely on the US. The interests of the US and France coincide, as the US is looking to reduce defense costs in Europe and shift to Asia, while France wants a decline in US influence in European defense matters. Before any of this can happen, President Trump and President Macron must agree that the war in Ukraine must reach a peace agreement. Europe alone cannot support the Ukraine military's needs to continue the war, so it needs to end the war and Ukraine's reliance on a high preponderance of US weaponry. President Macron has suggested the development of a Ukraine defense industry that serves Ukraine's defense needs, but also Europe, providing Ukraine with a new industry and customer base that will spend more on its own defense. He also needs to persuade European leaders to commit a substantial number of peacekeepers for an extended period, acting as a genuine deterrent against future Russian aggression. Both President Macron and President Trump share similar goals for long-term European security, but the obstacle to reaching this new security concept is the end of the Ukraine war and the demands of both Ukraine and Russia. A peacekeeping force that is big enough to satisfy the Ukrainians is beyond the capability of European NATO and would likely be rejected by Russia as just one of the hurdles.